I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. This is the time of women emerging, and we are changing this planet one woman at a time, neighborhoods, communities, all kinds of ways of expressing. And I get the honor of introducing you to people that inspire me. I hope you'll subscribe. You can find us on my website or Spotify or Spreaker or iTunes or iHeart, and come back time and time again because these ladies are amazing. So I want to introduce you to Whitney Freya. I will tell you how I met her in a moment, but she's an expert in inspired living. She provides practical tools and practices for free to free your mind from limitation and scarcity, to create more in your life that lights you up from the inside out. You can buy her books, 30 Days to Unstoppable and Rise Above, on Amazon. And you can go to whitneyfreya.com and she'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But I met Whitney. I was in a leadership program when I was really just kicking off my business, and I was a little overwhelmed by all the amazing people there. And Whitney was this beautiful light. And I just wanted to be connected to her. And later I invited her to my first in-person conference, of which she did amazing things that we will talk about. So Whitney, welcome.
Oh, Cynthia, it's so good to see you and be in your space. And yes, you have come a long way. Like, I love seeing all the different ways you are supporting and inspiring women. And I am so grateful for that.
Well, I thank you. And I love that I get to be on this path with you. And I would just like you to tell women, what was your background? Where were you born? What was your background? And then I want to talk about how the bridge to where you got to today.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I grew up in Chicago, graduated from the University of Michigan, and left the next day to go sell books door to door. And did that for 4 summers. And in between, I would travel and then recruit college students to come with me and sell books door to door, which was a wild and crazy experience, but kind of one of those, hero's journey. You face all your demons, and I really understood that I was being prepared for when I got the idea, because I seemed to be like cursed with too many ideas. And the idea that struck me out of nowhere and became the idea happened in 95, before I went out and sold books again. And it was to open kind of like the YMCA for the right brain. And this is about developing that creative muscle. And I had read a book called Zen and the Art of Making a Living. And in it, the author, Lawrence G. Bolt, said that unless you adopt an artist mentality, you will not be able to create the life of your dreams. And I just knew I wanted like this magical adventure of a life. And I had been a wannabe artist my whole growing up, like so jealous of the people that had inherited that, artistic, creative DNA. And so it was really bizarre for me to decide to open an art center, which I did. I opened the doors like a year and 3 months later, after going out and selling lots of books, and bought a house in a very rundown neighborhood in Nashville, Tennessee, and launched into this creative journey. And what was amazing is, one, with no art training whatsoever, and with the fact that I had purchased a house and was opening an art center, right? I made these quantum leaps in understanding more about the artistic painting, drawing, oil pastels process, just sitting, creating alone in my house. And I realized that when you take away all the I can'ts and all the filters that are trying to protect you from trying something and failing, had been erased because I was already doing it. I was in that no matter what stage. And so when I opened the doors, everybody immediately asked for when my classes were going to be, which I wasn't intending on doing classes because I didn't know how to teach. I just had all these art supplies and people were going to come in. I mean, it's really funny. There was clearly no business plan because I sold so many books. I didn't need any more money to open. So I opened it like $0, right? And people just showed up and offered to teach. And my students and I learned along the way together, witnessing how they were making changes in their lives because they had learned to make the changes they wanted in art class. And so we were learning together, but that was always my intention, right? So just my intention, without any art training, without like drilling it into my instructors, was enough to create a container, an energy within which these adults came in with a lifetime of saying that they couldn't paint or draw, and then leaving like, wow, I did it and I like it. And, you know, our mind is such that your unconscious chunks information. So as soon as you prove to yourself that you can do something that you've been telling yourself all along you can't do, right? It has to go back and reevaluate everything. Plus you're engaged in that creative frequency, which only knows possibility. So it's been a wild ride, Cynthia.
I love it. And there's a few things that jumped out. And the first thing is it's like you decided to wait for the right big idea. Yes. That you're a creative. And so, of course, there's a lot of ideas and vision that comes in. But to wait for the one that's your calling was the first thing. The second thing was that you decided to take a quantum leap and just move right into that space, even though you didn't have the plan in front of you.
Yes.
And the other thing was that you decided to listen to the requests from the universe and the requests from the people around you that wanted to come in. And so ladies, what I want to tell you, one of the things that she does, which is so extraordinary, which she's done twice at my conference, is she gets up and she talks to us and she has us draw something. And then she has us go to the back of the room and paint something, a little something on this very huge canvas. She then takes it back to her room and she comes back with a masterpiece and both of my conferences, people were bidding on. And so, first of all, I want to know where that idea came from and talk to us. So I'm sure I didn't explain it in the totality, but talk to us about that.
Well, so it still blows me away, right? Like almost 25 years later, is that truly the canvas is a powerful metaphor and a powerful portal for us to be able to observe ourselves and develop greater self-awareness around, well, everything really, but specifically, of course, around how we create, where we get energized, what part of the creative process lights us up, and where we tend to get stuck, right? And the canvas makes visible exactly how you do things. Like if you are a perfectionist, you're going to be a perfectionist at the canvas. If you start things and don't finish them, you will end up with canvases all around the house that are partly done. If your life is feeling very confused and muddy, you will paint mud onto your canvas. Like everything will blend together. So it becomes a mirror that is so powerful because like no one I work with is a professional artist. They're all, you know, usually kind of like I was, like had always been attracted or, oh, I'd love to paint, but I can't, right? It's not part of their routine. So there's also this alchemical experience that happens when you take disparate elements and put them together, it creates something totally new. So often, like, you know, when I was at your conferences, just women touching the brush to the canvas activates something within them because there's really nothing to be afraid of, right? There's really nothing to fear. It's all this story we've been telling ourselves. And the canvas and creativity, of course, are symbols of the feminine. The canvas is the infinite space. It's the womb from which we can create and draw from infinite possibilities. It's so clear when you sit down in front of a blank canvas, you know, and even that, you remember we went around the table in our leadership circle, right? And I asked everyone like, okay, if I just handed you a canvas, what would be your reaction? And, someone said, I'd be afraid of messing it up. I don't want to be the one to mess it up. And she's like, oh, I recognize that from the way I do business. And someone else said, I just don't even know where to start. And we all started laughing because that's where she always was, in our conversations about her business. So it's an opportunity to practice, right?
Yeah.
Starting. It's an opportunity to practice overcoming the fear of being the one to mess it up. And you're practicing on a totally benign surface.
Right.
But what happens within you and in your brain, the neurological synapses that loosen their connection because you've been telling yourself all along you can't do this. And then the new neural synapses that fuse together when you realize like, wow, I can make all the mistakes I want at the canvas. I can be wild and expressive at the canvas.
Yes,
I
I
can
love
be,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I want you to talk about the evolution because you opened this place, you didn't know what you were doing, you didn't have a business plan, people just started to come. Today you're an established author, you've got programs online, you're touching people all over the world. Was it little steps that got you there, or was it just the universe started pulling you in the right direction?
Well, there's some simple things. I mean, one thing was that in 2007, I was married at the time, and we bought 700 acres in Northeast Oregon, and we're going to move there in 2011. So in 2009 is when I started online programs because we were moving to this small, sparsely populated area, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to have the audience that I wanted there. And I was very much driven by the knowing that I even said it in 2009 that I'm like, I'm helping to prepare people for whenever this shift happens that we all want to happen and the structures crumble and the way things used to be go away. If people have that creative spark fanned and the flame is burning strong and they're able to see and illuminate what's possible, rather than focusing on what's going wrong, then maybe, they won't be jumping off bridges and we'll be in a better place. So I had this very deep sense of purpose aligned with that. So it wasn't a question of, stopping or anything. So the move, kind of accelerated that for sure. And then, of course, 9 months after moving into the dream house, I moved out and divorced my husband because that was not sustainable nor in harmony or anything else. And when I did that, that was facing my greatest fear. My greatest fear was admitting to myself that I was not in a healthy marriage and that I was going to hurt the people I loved the most in rectifying that situation. And so once I faced that fear and also added this whole new layer to my art practice, to my painting practice, because, in between feeling liberated and on top of the world, I felt scared as hell and, guilty and all these things. And I would often just crawl or be crying going to the canvas. And at the canvas, you always focus on what you want. And I painted into the canvas, I am sovereign and because I say so, and I am living in my new home. I rented for 6 years and was always curious how that was going to happen. And, I'd paint the intentions and sacred symbols and numerology into the layers of the canvas. And then I'd paint a symbol on top that represented this desire, and they hung all over my house.
Wow.
And that was a cross between energy work and energetic field acupuncture and law of attraction and all these things. But I was surrounded by these visions of what I wanted to help me stay focused on things working out the way I wanted rather than worrying. I screwed up my kids. I had 3 kids that were young at the time and all of that. And so that conviction, me really witnessing how much I needed that practice and how well it served me, really deepened, my voice got deeper even, and I took back so much power in that process. I'm so grateful to the husband for allowing me the opportunity to liberate myself and experience that energy of freedom. And then the spiritual journey that I believe comes right alongside the creative journey. And I read about like quantum physics and mindfulness and ancient yogic practices, and this is what I'm reading about, and then taking that into my painting classes.
Wow.
So it's this beautiful, fun, alchemical, dynamic, really magical process that I get to share with people that now it's been booming since last
Right.
March, because like this is the
Yeah.
call, right? Like everyone's getting creative and people are being, kind of forced to be home and quiet and alone, and they're doing a lot of introspection, and that creative spirit, I think, is getting louder and louder in people. And
Right.
if you don't honor that, there's going to be consequences, because we're here to create. Like, we're doing it in every second. It's just whether or not you're doing it with awareness.
Yeah. So, ladies, she said some pretty powerful things. That the first thing was that she became aware that what was happening in her life wasn't working, and so she had to do another quantum leap. She had to decide to step out,
Mm-hmm.
and she was afraid, and she moved anyway. And what I want to tell you is that, if you're not afraid, it's too small, because there's something else calling you, and you get to move anyway. And I also love that you trusted that process, even though you were having feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's exquisite. And I think that, it just dove you deeper into your creativity. And I love that you had all the things around your house that you could see, and that you go to the canvas with what you want.
Yes.
I love that. So before I ask you my final question, I want you to tell people where they can find you, how they can get your books, how they can sign up for your classes. How do they get some Whitney Freya?
Yeah, well, the good news is apparently there's only one Whitney Freya. So whitneyfreya.com will get you everywhere you need. And my books are on Amazon. My latest book that just came out, my fourth book, is called 30 Days to Unstoppable, Be the Dream Made Visible. And it actually does not include any painting. I do have an online program that accompanies it, but it is a meditative practice that I completely received, like the most channeled text I've ever written. And it is literally teaching us how to care for ourselves as vibrational beings, so that no matter what is going on in the external world, which I was teaching this online for the first time last January, so that I would write the book, because that's what I do to make sure I write the book. And, I talked about how this is like an energetic Noah's Ark. Like, you are cultivating a high vibration frequency within and around you, so that no matter what is going on in the external world, whatever tumultuous waters are out there, you will be safe in this Noah's Ark. And then the pandemic strolled in, right? And we were all just like, holy moly. Because when you're nurturing and focusing on high vibration energies, like we work with sacred geometry and the 6 spheres of wellness that I was given, and you're making sure that those spheres of wellness are full, that you're loving so many things in your life, the sunrise as it comes through your living room window, and the tea in the morning, or the color of your child's eyes, or whatever. And you're focusing on love and compassion and alignment and courage. And when you do that, everything else will fall into place.
Yes.
So what I was getting from Spirit was like, this is your new security. This is your new insurance policy. It's energy. Everything is energy. Start to focus on and create in that energy field. So I am beyond excited for that. And those books are all on Amazon, of course.
Awesome. Well, I asked the same last question of every guest.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the one thing women should know about awakening?
Well, here's the thing. The feminine is the spiritual leader on the planet. It always has been. And it's up to us to be the change first that we want to see in the world. And of course, it often, speaking from experience, feels like the masculine is the dominant voice, right? And the truth is that we could go on this forever, right? But let's just say the shift that's happening now is bringing the masculine and feminine into balance.
Yeah.
So every time women take back their power, what that means is you validate your right to be authentically you and do things your way, and you speak your truth and you stand in your power. And when we all do that, that feminine energy will rise, the feminine vibration will rise enough on this planet that things will come back into balance. And the results of that will be, Mother Earth will be better taken care of. Our children will be better taken care of. The world will be better taken care of. And there's no judgment. There's no criticism. I know that we're infinite beings having a human experience, and we got nothing but time. Like, this is a big roller coaster ride, right? So we created this loop-de-loop, and the part that we're on now is where the feminine comes back into balance with the masculine. That's why the Dalai Lama said that the Western woman will save the world, right? So everything that you do that lights you up, that makes you feel inspired, which that word means spirit within, is medicine for the world. So please don't hold yourself back.
Awesome. Whitney, thank you so much. I'm so excited for you, and I'm so excited for us that we get to hear your wisdom and partake of all the wonderful things that you offer. And I'm grateful that you've been a guest here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
So ladies, we do one of these every week. We're in countries all over the world, and all of these women, are showing you that there are various portals for you to step through into your greatness, because you're a masterpiece in the making. You are powerful. You are dynamic. You are here for a reason. You are essential, and that you can stand in that beauty and in that power in any given moment. There's nothing in the way. So please subscribe, come back, and I am so grateful to have this time with you. Many blessings.